Day two of the NFL draft is wrapped up for the New York Jets, and they come away with Mason Taylor and Azarie Thomas, tight end and corner, respectively. At 42 and 73, they do not make any trades. They stick and pick at 72, 43, 73. Armand Membu, love that. I don't know if I have to sell many people on taking, one of the top two offensive linemen at pick 7 when you have a spot for him to play. And then you come around and you get Mason Taylor. And what I like about Mason Taylor, well, first of all, I think once you picked, even before you picked tackle, honestly, like heading into the draft, I think tight end was the most acute need on the Jets roster. And in round one, that's part of the reason why Warren and even Loveland were pretty tempting in round one for the Jets. I would have been totally cool with Warren in round one and Nursery in round two. But if you look at how the board fell, man, there was a run on tackles. And look, there's a gap between Taylor and then Loveland and Warren for sure. But the Jets do end up getting the third tight end off the board and the second tight end off the board, as compared to if they went the other way, it would have been like the 10th, 11th offensive tackle. The Josh Connerly at 42, the Ozzie Trapillo at 72. It just doesn't happen, man. Tackles go. They always go. Tight ends, too. There was a pretty good run. I mean, I think 3 more went in the second round and 2 in the top 20. So with Taylor, massive, massive need. And he's incredibly young. Aaron Glenn Curley, we're starting to see, has a type. Membu, AZ Thomas, I hope he goes by AZ because I just learned how to pronounce his name and I don't want to mispronounce it. Azarie. That's how Abraham, who announced the pick, said it. Azarie Thomas. All like with an average draft age of 20.8 years old combined. So super, super young for starters. And now with Taylor, it's kind of lazy, but he reminds me so much of Dustin Keller, man. He reminds me so much of Dustin Keller, where he was an immediate starter at LSU. It got better every single year and really good hands, savvy mover, route runner, separator. Doesn't really give you a ton as a blocker right now. He has to develop significantly in that area. He probably is going to play a significant amount in the slot, like all these modern tight ends do. Can probably contribute as a move blocker and really maximizes his catch radius with good body positioning and being a pure hands catcher is what I like about him. Not super elusive after the catch and not an elite athlete. I don't think he has one awesome trait where it's like, this is what I'm great at. Right, like Harold Fannin with Yak or Jackson Hawes with blocking. But I think he has the potential to develop into a 3-down starting tight end where it's like, hey, this is just our tight end and 11 personnel. He plays 78% of the offensive snaps. That's our tight end 1. And I think that should eventually be the expectation for a top 50 pick. Whereas some other players, I think, like Mitchell Evans, where you're kind of pairing them with another tight end and hodgepodging a room together. Whereas Mason Taylor, they identified tight end as enough of a significant need and a position that they value. We're like, we're going to take a top 50 pick and we're going to try and develop this kid into a full-time tight end and try and get their next Sam Laporta, which would be an awesome, awesome comp. I think that's an optimistic comp, but even if you can get 80% of Sam Laporta out of Mason Taylor, that'd be phenomenal. Now, the trade-off I think you make, because I think there were some equally talented wide receivers available at that spot. But I do think that tight end was a more significant need. I mean, look at the wide receiver room. You got Garrett Wilson. First of all, you got Garrett Wilson, who's a top 20 NFL receiver, who is a legit wide receiver 1. Heading into the draft, we didn't even have a legit tight end 2. Maybe Jeremy Rucker can, improve with new coaching and become a tight end 2. Maybe same thing could be said about Stone Smart, but I mean, those are both, like, let's be honest, like roster bubble type of players who are just hoping can become role players. So massive need. Whereas wide receiver, you have a wide receiver 1, and even Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard have been wide receiver 3s. Tyler Johnson's been a wide receiver 4. You have Corley, who he was a 3rd-round pick of last year, right? So compared to what they have at tight end, wide receiver room is actually in significantly better shape. And that's not a high bar, but yeah, definitely a much more acute need at tight end. And so that's the first part. And the second part, I think if the Jets are going to do the Justin Fields experiment, which is what they're doing, they gave him $30 million guaranteed. I'm not saying that Mason Taylor is going to make or break whether or not Justin Fields succeeds or not as the quarterback of the Jets, but I think that having a legitimate tight end is a non-negotiable component of seriously giving Justin Fields a shot. Non-negotiable. Which is why, man, I was starting to look at that Dallas Goedert and like, oh man, do we have to really peel off a pick to go get Dallas Goedert if we don't come away with a tight end in the first 3 picks? But now I don't think you necessarily need to do that. Maybe you do, but you're not desperate to do that with Mason Taylor. But the trade-off is that a wide receiver taking in that spot probably could come in and be more impactful right away because obviously we saw Bowers last year, and I would expect Warren as a top 15 pick who's going to be 23 by training camp to be highly impactful right away. But those guys are some outliers. Typically tight ends who are drafted where they're normally drafted day 2, it can take 2 to 3 years before they become a starter. Even tight ends who are now really good, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, go look at what they did. They had maybe a couple hundred yards in their rookie year. So that's the trade-off that you're making. And you compound that with the fact that he's very young. So I see Mason Taylor a ton of potential to be a well-rounded, long-time starting tight end for this football team. But I don't know how much expectations I have for him year 1. Now, he should be ahead of Stone Smart and Jeremy Ruckert off rip. Let's be honest. you're a top 50 pick. You should be ahead of those guys by the second week of camp. But in terms of like how many yards or all this stuff, I don't know how to have an expectation for Mason Taylor compared to the first round. If you're taking Tedderell McMillan, if you're taking Tyler Warren, it's like, yeah, you need that guy to come in and get you 700-800 yards like minimum right away as a rookie. But I think, tempered expectations for some crazy rookie season from Taylor. But yeah, he should be ahead of those guys and be the starting tight end just relative to what we have. It's a high enough pick to where he should be a starting player when it was arguably a weaker position. And I think he will be. So like that pick a lot for the Jets. Again, the combination of Membu and Taylor, when you compare it to tight end first and tackle later, we'll see. We have no idea. Maybe we'll look back and we'll say, oh, Warren is awesome and Ursay's great. I think Ursay's going to eventually play left tackle for the Texans and sit this year, I imagine, looking at their depth chart. But just the way the board went to me, as the first round went on and the second round started, I just felt better and better about making that investment with Membu in the first round. So Mason Taylor, you're New York Jet. Congratulations, son of Jason Taylor, which is awesome. There's a picture of Mason Taylor with Jets gear and dad's number 99 jersey on at a Jets game for that cup of coffee Jason Taylor played with the Jets. Nephew of Zach Thomas. I mean, dude, that's some DNA, man. Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas. Are you freaking kidding me? Come on. So we tried Jeremy Ruckert, whose dad was a Jets fan, and we said, all right, that was not good enough. So now we have to get a guy whose dad was a former Jet player, albeit not in his prime, obviously an eventual Hall of Famer in Taylor, mostly for his career with the rival Dolphins. So Taylor, man, I like it. Now, Aarion Thomas. Okay. I think he's going to be awesome in an Aaron Glenn defense as a corner. That's my takeaway. He looks and moves like Sauce. It's like we got dollar store Sauce Gardner in the most complimentary of ways to Aarion Thomas, who he and Sauce Gardner have a combined wingspan of just over 13 feet, probably an NFL record that will definitely correlate directly to winning. It is science. And now there's the question, right? So to me, there's 3 different ways that this can go with the secondary that they have. Now, A, they just convert Aarion Thomas to safety. I think that's very unlikely. I think he is perfect to be a boundary corner in Aaron Glenn's defense. But let's just go through the options. B, they said, you know what? We signed Stevens to be a corner. We have Sauce to be our corner our two boundary corners. They're under contract for the next 2 years. But holy hell, man, we had, Mason Taylor was our 35th player. We got him at 42. Azareye'h Thomas was our 41st player, and he's here at 73. We have to take him, and now maybe he's a backup slash sub package player for the next 2 years because Sauce is under contract for 2 more years of the 5th year option, and Stevens got 2 years guaranteed. So that could be now. I think it'd be reasonable to criticize that a little bit. Now, 1 year drafting ahead of need in the 3rd round, pick 73, no big deal. Like if the Jets signed Stevens to a 1 year deal and then Aarion Thomas took over in 2026 as a starter, all good. Good teams do that all the time in the 3rd round. 2 years, all right. You'd probably like to see a guy be a starter by his second season for a top 75 pick, but he's so young. Like, okay, if that's, and they just thought he was so talented, okay, that could be their option. And if he ends up being freaking awesome, we won't care. He'll be worth the wait. But that's option B. Plan C is that Azareye'h Thomas and Sauce Gardner are your boundary corners, and they move Brandon Stevens to safety, which he did play his rookie year. And now that would make him a very high paid safety. Okay, if you were going to do that, why didn't you just sign a different safety? Who knows? Honestly, of all of those, I kind of like C, because to me, then that means your starting secondary is Stevens and Cisco at safety, which analytically Stevens was actually a little bit better at safety. I haven't watched Stevens film. I only watched the Buffalo playoff game, which was not good, but it was snowing. So I haven't really dug into Stevens a ton in terms of watching him play. So let me know. It's not the most informed opinion because same thing with Azareye'h Thomas. Haven't watched his film either. So I'm wading into the waters here trying to pick the mind of Aaron Glenn, who probably deserves the benefit of the doubt in the defensive backfield more than any position, right? But that would mean those are your boundary corners. You got Stevens and Cisco at safety. Stevens your strong safety. Cisco is your free safety, and Michael Carter is your slot, and that's your starting secondary. And you got 3 day one starters in rounds 1, 2, and 3. That would be like my preference. Are they going to do it? I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe Stevens is just a corner, and they're just drafting ahead of need because the player was too good. So, offensive tackle, tight end, and then corner. And again, if they move Stevens to safety, it's like, oh, we needed a safety. We all have been okay if they took a safety in the 3rd round. So if they kind of crossed that, they had that need squared away, and now they're just replacing corner, I'm totally down with it. I didn't really, once they signed Stevens, I didn't really dig into a lot of the day 2 corners because I'm like, all right, you're not going to take a corner on day 2 to be a backup for 2 years. Maybe I was wrong because the guys like Trey Amos and stuff, like I think they would have been a good fit. Azareye'h Thomas seems like a good fit for an Aaron Glenn defense. Has a type of corner he likes because he loves Sauce, raves about Sauce. Stevens is a really big corner, and Thomas is a massive corner as well. So maybe 5'9" DJ Reed wouldn't have been long for the Jets anyway. And he likes guys who can't drink alcohol yet. They're drafting super, super young draft age, which the previous regime wasn't as married to that, with like Will McDonald being pretty old, Carter Warren's pretty old, Jordan Travis, but it's only 3 picks in, so we can't say that we know what an Aaron Glenn pick is yet, but we're starting to see some patterns. Dustin Keller drops in. What's up, man? Just wanted to get the convo started early. I like the Membu pick, but I noticed on film he struggled against A&M quite a bit. Really, that was when I was really impressed with him against A&M. So that's interesting that you point that out. Although I only watched 2024 Membu, so maybe it was a different year because I didn't watch any from his freshman or sophomore year. Good against Bama though, and really good against Boston College. Okay. Also feel like they booted him away from him, which took away from some of his true pass sets. Not sure if that was intentional or not. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes offensive tackle evaluations can be tricky because, I mean, even Kelvin Banks with that weird like hop step thing they do where it's not like a true vertical set, but it kind of is. It's not quite as bad as Ikem Ekwonu, where it's like, oh my gosh, give me one. Give me one vertical set to show me you can hang. But when given the options, like with Membu, that's not my concern. Is not in pass pro. My concern with Membu is not in pass pro at all, particularly when he's going against speed and finesse. The concern with Membu to me is the awareness, in terms of just that natural feel and also like an experience and coaching thing. I'm sure of picking up stunts, twists, blitzers. That was something that when you look at Campbell and Membu, that really stuck out. That Campbell was much better at. I thought Membu's pass pro was better than Campbell's. I thought Campbell had some limitations in his foot speed and length that got him beat a couple times. Obviously, he's awesome too. And Campbell is probably coming in as a day one more consistent run blocker. But Membu was so clean in pass pro, man. He was so clean. And it's weird because when you watch him in pass pro, it's like he's so refined, but the run game, it's like sometimes it's like, well, it's very inconsistent. Lazard is currently our wide receiver 2. Clemens is set up to play meaningful minutes in the big 2025. And you picked a corner who can't play man in a man coverage system. Well, obviously they think he can play man, right? Otherwise they wouldn't have taken him. So they clearly disagree with that. Yeah, man. I think going into this draft, like, again, I'm not going to sell you Coke juice that the Jets are going to have some awesome roster and that they're going to find players on day 3. They're going to make us feel warm and fuzzy inside, and they're going to go win the division. I will say that it was PFF's number 2 rated roster last year, and they were one Will Levis fumbled away from having the number 1 overall pick. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, man, heading into this draft, I think we all knew that there was going to be multiple backup / role players playing important spots. There was no way around it, whether it be Stone Smart, Michael Clemens, Alan Lazard, Okafor, Tony Adams, like, right? There was no way because it's only been 3 picks and I've already named 5 or 6 things. So it's just with all of those being upsetting, I think that gives you the leeway to just say, hey, take the best players. And when in doubt, if it's really close, the tiebreaker should be try and help out your quarterback, which the first 2 picks did. I mean, we're like, I mean, if the Jets took, like, I wanted Jalen Noel. That was who I was hoping for with this pick, wide receiver, Iowa, who I believe is off the board now, to Houston, who got both Iowa State receivers, Higgins and Noel, and Noel. That's who I wanted. Would have liked Kyle Williams too, but he just got snagged by the Patriots. But if they took a 3rd round receiver instead of a corner, like you'd be like, oh yes, I knew we were going in the right direction. Like, I don't know, it seems to me a little bit, and not necessarily you, BN. I'll take your comment off the screen because it's not directed at you specifically. It's fine if you didn't like the pick. Jets have had a bunch of 3rd round picks who sucked. Hopefully he's not one of them. But it seems a little bit like, I think Jets fans are just so, our soul is taken from last year. We're just like, any reason to not like it or give up or troll or laugh or they don't know what they're doing, we're just jumping on that. When if we didn't have all those emotions tied to it, like what they've done so far are the kind of standard normal things for a team coming in that's mopping up a previous era that, Woody Johnson was just reading Twitter and would trade his mother for the people on Twitter who would trade their mother for a dopamine hit, doing that for like 3 years in a row with the most dead cap in the NFL, with the worst resource to results ratio in modern NFL history. They're coming in and cleaning that up. And I don't think any one thing they've done has been absolutely insane, right? Taking an offensive tackle when you have a hole at tackle isn't insane. Taking a tight end when you have a massive hole at tight end, and he was the 29th rated player on Daniel Jeremiah's big board, I don't think is that crazy. taking a corner in the third round who we don't know, maybe like we don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to move Stevens to safety. Let's say he starts right away. If he's a starting player right away at 73, like when's the last time the Jets have had a starting third rounder right away at any position? I'll tell you, it's probably Jordan Jenkins. So, and that's just a projection, but like if that does happen, or is any of that crazy? Even Aaron Rodgers, like we can debate it till we're blue in the face. Like a lot of teams would have done that. It's never a crazy thing to move off of like a 42-year-old quarterback who's injured and still hasn't picked a team in after the draft. Like that's not a crazy thing to do. I don't care. That's a perfectly normal thing to do. Everything that they've done. Will it work? Who the hell knows? Can they coach? Who knows? But nothing they've done is like insane. If you're removing your Jet fan demons from it, like what's the crazy thing that's happened so far? I can't really think of it. I think it's been mostly pretty normal stuff. Anthony, dude, that is very generous of you, man. Nothing against the player, but if you want a safety, draft a safety. Winston is on the board. Oh, dude, Winston still out there? Man, Winston's phenomenal. I would have taken Winston at 42, to be honest. Don't move the corner you overpaid to safety. There are starters on the board at position of need. Wide receiver, defensive tackle, real safeties, Love Moon Taylor. I think that's a perfectly reasonable criticism of the Jets draft. Like, we don't have to, because eventually, look, here's the thing. We are all eventually going to criticize this new regime for something. There will be even the most positive content creator is going to be on a post-game show ranting about Aaron Glenn didn't take a freaking timeout. What the hell are we doing? This pick didn't work. Those are all coming. Even if they're successful, those are all coming. I live in Buffalo. They win the division every year. Their fans are still in anaphylactic shock over things with the team all the time. That comes with fans. So we don't have to wear full green goggles. That's totally fine. Now, I guess I don't know what they're going to do though. Like that's why I can't judge the plan. If they're saying he's going to be a backup for 2 years and then he'll replace Stevens, I think that is worthy of criticism because I'd have to imagine there were players of similar talent at positions that would be impactful right away. So I think it's a valid criticism, but I don't know that yet. If Stevens is at safety and Thomas is at corner, well, then my criticism would be at the Stevens signing, because if Azaria Thomas is a starting corner day one at 73 and he looks good, that's a good pick. That'll be a good pick, right? And then we can just hash it out about, okay, why did you give Stevens money to play safety or whatever? So we kind of have to see what their plan is for that to critique it. But look, I mean, was that the name I was crossing my fingers for? No. But it seems like by consensus, it was pretty good value for Thomas. Yeah, there's still, I mean, this draft, we got a lot of flack for being a weak draft. There's still some players on this board I'm excited for maybe the Jets could get. Jalen Royals, but we don't pick again for a while, right? Isn't it like 110 or something? Jalen Royals would be awesome. Joshua Farmer at defensive tackle. Even Braden Swinson at edge. Torrey Horton, wide receiver. Alik Iomanor, wide receiver. There's some stuff to work with. Oh, Kevin Winston just went to, but I believe is Watts still there? Yeah, Xavier Watts is still there. Which, and obviously, they're not going to take another defensive back. I would imagine in the 4th round, but Xavier Watts still being there is a shocker to me. So thank you, Anthony. That was very generous of you, dude. Yeah, but in terms of the fit for Aaron Glenn's defense, the kid seems to fit the bill perfectly for what they want to do. Like in a vacuum, AZ Thomas in Aaron Glenn's defense playing boundary corner, I like it. Now, in terms of the plan with Stevens and who else they could have taken, we'll kind of see and how that all shakes out. But in a vacuum, it seems like this kid is going to be pretty damn good fit for their defense. Why move Stevens to safety? He never played safety. They may not. They may not, but I'm almost positive he played safety his rookie year. I am like 99% sure he played safety his rookie year. Zahn says, I'm a bit worried about the corner. Chris Sims said he looks and plays slow. It feels like a big bet on his development as he ages since he's so young. I mean, I can't. Again, I really didn't dig into Azaria Thomas, so I'm just kind of going live off the cuff here. So, is that a weakness of his? The ability to flip his hips and run. I mean, all third round picks are going to have some weaknesses, so we'll see. But yeah, definitely are betting on upside with Taylor and Thomas being super young. Randy says, I think it's pretty cool so far. We solidified the offensive line, didn't fall for the first round tight end. Maybe that cornerback will be good. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Prestige says, I'd love for us to take a stab at Torrey Horton or Tay Felton. Yeah, those are two names who are still available. The wide receiver is a good, now it's about to be kind of done, but there's a few left of that crop that I thought were worth considering on day two. There's like 2 or 3 left. Marcelo says the people whining are so annoying. There are tons of large edge rushers left that can replace Clemens. Braden Swinson, LSU would be on my radar. And there are speedy receivers on the board. Can't address every need in 3 picks. Yeah, well, I would also point out, Marcelo, like, dude, the whole debate we were pretty much having for the most part was, do you pass catcher first and then tackle second? Because everyone was like, dude, take Warren and you can get a tackle and take Ursery or Connerly or whatever in round 2. Or no, take Membu and then go ahead and get Higgins or Mason Taylor or whoever. That was kind of the debate. They did those 2 things. So even if it wasn't like your favorite guy or in the order you wanted, they did do those 2 things. So if they just went a little rogue and got a corner and we don't even know what the plan is, like that to me is that's a pretty low bar to freak out. they took a corner in the 3rd round. Like, I don't know, man. It's just because we're Jet fans and we don't give the franchise the benefit of the doubt. And it's hard, but I'm really trying to remove that. Not be like a super homer, but just okay, if you pretended like you just came in from space and you didn't know anything about Jets history, you're just looking at the roster and what and all that, and just you don't have Woody Johnson ruining your life for the last 15 years. No one thing they've done has been insane to me. The coach that, like, what would have been insane is if they said, hey, yeah, we're going to hire Rex Ryan and we're going to keep Aaron Rodgers. And then we're going to bring back Devontae. He can make $6 million a year. And we're going to go win a Super Bowl, baby. And we're going to have the highest dead cap hit until 2029. We're going to give another 3rd and another 4th round pick over here to rent 10 players from Mr. and Mrs. Washed and dry cleaned over here. We're gonna go sign this player who it had for $15 million a year, who 3 years ago was a good player. That would have been freaking crazy. They haven't done any of that. They've done pretty much normal stuff. So I'm not like, you don't got to mainline the Kool-Aid, but they're just doing normal what you would anticipate a team to do who is coming into the situation. they drafted 3 guys so far. They drafted 3 guys. But yeah, I wonder if they'll tell us. They're going to make us wait. Bastards. I want to know. I want to know what their plan is. I'm sure there's a press conference happening now. Yeah, but I want to know what the plan is in the defensive backfield. Very interesting. I am very confident Azaria Thomas is a boundary corner. It's just, is he waiting to be a boundary corner until Stevens is off the team? Or is Stevens moving to safety? That's the 2 options to me. Azaria Thomas is a boundary corner. He's not being converted to safety. I'm pretty confident in that. So maybe they just loved him too much. And they were like, dude, we got to take this kid. Jack Sawyer are so him too, man. Ohio State, right? They had a couple edges. Jack Sawyer, Braden Swinson. Braden Swinson is strong as hell, man. I would love Braden Swinson in the fourth round would be awesome, dude. Come in and could, I mean, immediately be your third edge and play a big role on the defense. Oh, Jared Ivey, dude. Oh, man, see, there's some good players. Jared Ivey is he's JFM, man. He's JFM. I would take Jared Ivey of all the defensive linemen left because he is the perfect player who could be a base edge and a moonlight as a pass rusher in obvious passing situations, which kind of fulfills a little bit of your need at both edge and defensive tackle, which does persist. So if you take a player like that who can play whatever, nothing crazy, maybe 20% of his snaps inside, then that allows you to maybe in the fifth round, you take just a fat two gapping one tack who's going to play 35% of the snaps next to Quinnen, and you kind of piecemeal it together that way with with a fourth round pick and a fifth round pick. Because of the versatility of Ivy, you could really solve, like, Ivy is just WD-40 across your defensive line. Is JFM. I love Jared Ivey, man. Ole Miss. I'll have to look at the players. And now, to be just honest, we're about 20, 25 picks away from my draft knowledge being tapped. I can't get to 300 players. Just can't do it, man. So, but we have the internet, which helps. But Jared Ivey is definitely one that would be high on my preferences with the guys remaining for sure. Milroe to Seattle. Really? Wait, Dylan Gabriel got taken before Sanders? Dude, so Sanders doesn't go. Dude, if Sanders is there in the fourth round, do you take him if you're the Jets? The fourth round? This is the biggest fall in draft history. It has to be, right? What else is like this? Geno went top of the second round. Aaron Rodgers fell to what, 20? Who's left? The Raiders have two. Oh, did Milroe already get announced to the Raiders? Wow, this tracker is way behind. I mean, so the Raiders took Milroe, so they're not going to take him. They have back-to-back picks. Obviously, they're not going to take two quarterbacks. Then it's San Fran, Atlanta, Houston. They're not so Shedeur Sanders is not going unless the team trades up. He's not going in the first three rounds. I mean, I wasn't the biggest Shedeur Sanders fan, but I am stunned. I am truly stunned that he did not get taken in the first three rounds. Players to compete. Yeah, man, we need some dogs on this team. We need just good players. Is he good? Then he'll be good. Milroe over Sanders. It's personal. I mean, maybe with some teams, you think every single team individually doesn't has a vendetta against Sanders? Maybe, but I don't know. Like maybe just like Milroe's traits better than Sanders. Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, I do not think Dylan Gabriel is a better quarterback prospect than Shedeur Sanders, personally. Tyler Shook going to the Saints was pretty dude, you know what? Tyler Shook going to the Saints was a little bit. I mean, I like him. I like things about his game. He's a much better. I think he has better tools than people give him credit for because people think, oh, he's just very old. So he's just has experience, but no tools. Shook actually has a decent arm and he's pretty big and he's actually a pretty good athlete. It's just he's graduated high school when Justin Fields did. and he's torn every part of his body. So, but the Saints needed somebody who can maybe come in and play because they don't know if Derek Carr is going to be injured or not. So I guess it'll be the Sugar and Rattler show. Sanders did not interview well. Could be. Rico wonders if there's some undisclosed medical issue with Sanders. Would have no idea of how to know. But the thing is, sometimes when those happen, like they may not disclose the entire issue, but typically an insider will say he's got a medical. Like with Will Johnson, we found out, he's got a medical. We don't know what it is, but he's got a medical. I mean, let me know, guys. Okay, Shedeur Sanders in the 4th round. Should the Jets take him? At what point? If he's there in the 6th, yes. You freaking do it. And the 2nd, even if his dad gets annoying, you cut him. It's a 6th-round pick. I don't think he's going to make it to the 6th round. But the point stands. There is a point where you do take Shedeur Sanders if you're the Jets. I think. When is that point? Is that point at pick 110? Xavier Watts to Atlanta. Bastards. But no, Marcelo, and there's no point in which you would take him. Would you take him in the 6th round? Would you take Shedeur Sanders in the 6th round? I mean, maybe some teams just don't have him on their draft board. Never. Okay, most people say never. Stevens has taken him in the 4th. Yeah, that's. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about Sanders now. Just so surprised he's still on the board. Yeah, interior offensive lineman is definitely another pipeline need. So I would put the biggest needs now at like wide receiver and defensive line. And then secondary needs would be linebacker, interior offensive line, safety. Yeah, you're probably right. All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna call it there. I'll be back making videos or streams or something tomorrow. I'm sure we'll. Should a Shedeur Sanders video be made? Is it a waste of time? Will you be angry if you see that come up on your phone? Someone's gonna do it. One of us, Ian's gonna do it. Ian's probably doing it right now. Ian from Jet Central will unequivocally make it. He will have it uploaded tomorrow morning. You know he will, because he's a machine. So if Ian can do it, I don't know. It's fair game. But I take care, guys. If you want to hit the thumbs up on the way out, that'd be cool. And go Jets.